It's 6 o'clock. It's time for our regular meeting. Can you join us in an invocation delivered by Mr. Jim Goodman and join us in the pledge?
Stand, please, and gentlemen, remove your covers. Let us pray. Our Father and our God in heaven, we come to thee in prayer. We ask in humble nature that you give us wisdom and guidance in the decisions that we will make. We thank you, Father, for the bounties that you give to us on a daily basis, all of the things that you do for us. We are humble and we appreciate them. Father, we pray special blessings on the people who serve us in uniform. Keep them safe, keep them healthy. Father, we pray that if anyone is standing in the need of comfort, that you touch them, touch their hearts, and you show us the way that we can be of service. All of these things we ask in thy name. Amen.
Amen.
Join us in the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice.
Roll call, Katie.
Commissioner Reddick is absent.
All right. Are there any amendments to the agenda? There are none. Can I get a motion to accept the agenda as presented?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
I got a first and a second to accept the agenda. All in favor? We have an agenda. If there's no changes to the minutes from the September 5th regular meeting, can I get a motion to accept those minutes?
Motion to approve the minutes as presented, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
Got a first and second to accept the minutes. All in favor?
Abstain.
Motion carries. One abstention. All right, this brings us to your presentation.
Yes, sir. The first presentation is a proclamation recognizing September 19th as National Voter Registration Day. Whereas the right to vote is a fundamental cornerstone of our constitutional federal republic, empowering citizens to have their voices heard and participate in the governance of our great nation. And whereas the right to vote is sacred and empowers individuals to shape the direction of our community, state, and nation. And whereas National Voter Registration Day is a nonpartisan national effort to ensure that every eligible citizen has the opportunity to register to vote and make their mark on the future of our country. And whereas Camden County, Georgia recognizes the importance of fostering an engaged and informed electorate with resources and access to participate in the electoral process, with the understanding that active participation in this constitutional process is vital for the well-being and progress of our community. Whereas voter registration is the first step towards exercising this essential right of every American, and by encouraging voter registration, we are promoting civic responsibility, inclusivity, and equal representation for all residents of Camden County. September 19th, 2023 marks National Voter Registration Day, a day dedicated to raising awareness about voter registration opportunities and ensuring that every eligible citizen has the chance to register to vote in upcoming elections. Camden County, Georgia seeks to uphold the principles of fairness, transparency, and accessibility in this electoral process, and recognizes that the strength of our constitutional federal republic depends on the active participation of our citizens. Whereas by proclaiming September 19th as National Voter Registration Day, we affirm our commitment to fostering a robust republic and encourage all eligible residents to register to vote, to make their voices heard throughout the nation. And now therefore be it resolved, we do hereby proclaim September 19th, 2023 as National Voter Registration Day. We urge all eligible citizens to seize this opportunity, register to vote, and engage in this constitutional process. Let us work together to strengthen our constitutional constitutional federal republic and ensure that all values of freedom, equality, and civic participation continue to flourish in our great country. And we do have some representatives from the Board of Elections here. If you come up, and we'd like to get a picture.
Staff and I were at the high school this morning for National Voter Registration Day, and we registered 30 young students that were there. They can be 17 and a half years old. They don't have to be 18, but we registered a mix of both 17 and a half and 18-year-olds. And 30, I think, is the highest number I've had since I've been here, so it was very successful. So thank you.
Thank you, Sharon.
Congratulations.
Good work. Brings us to the presentation for Horse Pen Creek Watershed. Julie?
I'm right here.
You're there.
Hello. I'm here to discuss the success of the Horsepen Creek Watershed water quality improvements for the St. Mary's River. The Horsepen Creek section of the St. Mary's River was on the 303D list of most polluted rivers in Georgia. It was determined that the cause of the pollution was due to failing septic systems in the watershed, and to achieve water quality standards, fecal coliform should be reduced by 67%. In 2011, UGA and the St. Mary's River Management Committee and others were involved in Georgia Environmental Protection Division's demonstration project that included installing an advanced treatment system at the Browntown Park and education about septic system maintenance. This was a good start, but water quality testing continued to show a high number of fecal coliform. To combat this problem, the Horsepen Creek Watershed Septic System and Water Quality Improvement Team was created. The team included county staff, myself, Scott Brazel, and public works staff. St. Mary's River Keeper Rick Fry, Anna Laws, and Emily Floor, the St. Mary's River Management Committee, John Myers and Ben Casey, Georgia Department of Public Health, Terry Farrell, and staff from UGA's Carl Vinson Institute. We were successful in receiving 2 grants from Georgia Environmental Protection Division to improve water quality. In an effort to reduce the total maximum daily load for fecal coliform, we pumped out, replaced, or repaired failing septic systems in the Horsepen Creek watershed in Browntown. In total, 44 failing systems were replaced and 1 was repaired. This map shows all the properties where systems were failing and replaced. As you can see here, the water quality shows improvement after pump outs and replacements began. Also, macroinvertebrates were observed for the first time at a water testing site. This was such exciting news in the project. This was the first time that this has been seen in, sorry. We were excited because macroinvertebrates cannot live in poor water quality. Next. This slide is showing the most current samples taken at the testing site were well below the 410 CFUs per 100 milliliters, which is the state level that recreation water bodies should be below. These results were recognized by the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency and was touted as a success story. Over the past 6 years, during phase 2 and 3, we had a great team of staff and volunteers working on this project to make it successful. This slide shows all the hours and in-kind dollars put into this project. I want to specifically call out a few. We couldn't have done this without Public Works. This project was a 40-60 grant to match. Without the dirt for the drain fields and Public Works hauling it, we would not have been able to meet our match requirement. So I want to say thank you to Public Works. Also, Scott Brazel kept the project on track. He dedicated approximately 20 hours per septic system replacement. The Riverkeeper and their volunteers completed monthly water sampling, and this project was a monthly agenda item for the River Management Committee and was discussed each month. I also want to thank the property owners who participated in this project. They had to volunteer to participate, and I'm glad they were willing to help us with this project. So why am I talking about this today? St. Mary's Riverkeeper nominated us to be included in the Georgia Water Coalition's Clean 13 report. The Horsepen Creek Watershed Septic System and Water Quality Improvement Team has been selected to be included in this report. The report is published yearly to highlight 13 entities around Georgia that are doing extraordinary work to protect water resources. This is a great collaborative effort between a lot of partners, both staff and volunteers. I'm so excited that this team will be recognized for its efforts in cleaning up the St. Mary's River. That's it. That's it.
Thank you.
So,
Photo op.
yeah. So the team could come up, members of the team that are here, River Management Committee, River Keepers. Congratulations, y'all. Congratulations.
I don't see Barbara. See her? Barbara.
All right.
She used the next.
This brings us to our next presentation, report on the community theater. Barbara Ryan here.
Barbara's parking the car. She got the wrong time and blamed it on Jan. So she's coming up right this second. So thank you very much.
But you've never been at a loss for words, Doug?
I can sing for you if you want me to.
No, thank you. Sorry.
Well, I can tell you a joke or something. What do you want me to do? Yeah. Now she'll be right here. I apologize. She'll be coming up the steps right now.
Well, we can hold off on y'all and we.
That's a
can
good
go
idea.
to the
Can you skip?
Presentation. Are you ready, Blake?
You have to pull it very close to you, sir.
Is it working? Oh, all righty.
Maybe not that close.
Yeah, exactly. I'm learning. That's good. I'm glad she was late because I was a little nervous about following the theater folks. You know, you never know what's going to come up with them. I appreciate your time this evening. It's good being back with you. It's been, I guess, about a year ago now that I was here giving you a presentation on the financial study that we did for you on the airport. So here today to talk to you about the justification study. So we went from one study to another, and I'll jump into this and try to be as expeditious as possible, but not leave out anything important for you. So the justification study included the items that you see on the presentation there. I won't read them off to you. We're going to go through each one of them individually and very quickly because some of them don't require that much attention. In terms of the background, wanted to just talk about how we got here. All of you are familiar with the background of the St. Mary's Airport. I don't need to talk about that. The state some years ago did a site selection study to look at locations for a potential replacement airport. Then they did an update of the site selection study. Then they asked us about, I guess they asked the county a couple of years ago when you decided that you would become the sponsor for it. They asked you to do a financial study, which we did for you, presented that to the Georgia DOT and FAA. That was accepted, and then they came back and asked for this justification study. So we were a little bit surprised with the justification study because we thought the justification was the fact that the old airport had been shut down by DOD and that everyone had agreed that you would be allowed to construct a new one. So we didn't really know there was going to be a justification study required. However, there is. And the need for the justification study is basically to meet FAA policy. So FAA policy says that you have to show a justification in order to get federal funding. So that's why we needed to have the justification study. So it's essentially, I don't mean to minimize it, but it's basically a check mark for FAA so that you can get federal grants. It did include also census data. They really just want to see that the community is growing. And as you all know, you are growing and have been growing. The census data shows about a 7.5% to an 8% growth over the past 10 years. So the community continues to add new businesses and residents. So that's good. That positive growth is further justification for the replacement of the airport. Aviation demand was the last part of the background information for the study. And really what we're looking at in aviation demand is two things. We're looking at aircraft that are in the county that may want to locate at the airport, and also pilots. So I realize this is really hard to see up on the screen, but I think you all have a copy of it that you should be able to refer to. On the left-hand side, you simply have the aircraft that are currently shown as being registered in Camden County, 17 of those. And then on the right-hand side, you have registered pilots. And again, these are only the aircraft and the pilots that are in the county. It's not limit you as to the number of aircraft or pilots that would utilize the airport. Obviously, surrounding communities and surrounding counties would also utilize an airport if it were located here. But those are what we showed in the justification study as being already an existing demand in the county, if that makes sense. Moving on to the justification analysis portion, a lot of this was really kind of, as I mentioned, kind of checkbox kind of items because we had already gotten past a lot of these already in the previous work that was done. So the first section was on the proposed airport ownership. Obviously, this body has determined that it is going to be the sponsor, so that is set. The financial capacity, we had already done the financial study for you. That's been completed. It's been submitted. So that's a checkbox item as well. Inclusion in the state system plan. This airport has been in the state system plan for at least the last 7 years as a replacement airport. So it's been in there for a long time. So that's not something new or anything that we needed to do. It's already in there. Airport setting, of course, is unincorporated Camden County. As you all are aware, there's not really a location within any of the city limits that's either large enough or adequate for the airport location. So it will be the unincorporated portion of the county. And then probably, I guess, the new part in this study was the analysis of the NEPIUS airports. NEPIUS is a federal term. It stands for National Plan of Integrated Airport Systems. These are the airports that qualify for federal funding. So when you're looking at adding an additional airport to the system, you're required to look at the existing airports that are already in the system, just simply to show that those airports don't already provide the service and the need. Clearly, there aren't any other airports in Camden County, so there's not one within the county that provides those needs. The closest one to you really is Jacksonville, which is, of course, a commercial service airport. It's not a general aviation airport. There's not a lot of general aviation activity at that airport. It's commercial service, and that's what it caters to. Really, the closest commercial service or the closest general aviation is going to be Fernandina Beach, which at Fernandina Beach Airport, I think their waiting list now for hangar space is over 100 aircraft on that waiting list. Similar up at Golden Isles. So there is a demand at those other airports and waiting lists at those other airports, which means that they can't possibly be meeting any demand that you may have in the county, given that they already have long waiting lists for hangars at those locations. And then development considerations goes into really things like existing infrastructure and roadways, which, fortunately Camden County is blessed with a good highway system, interstate and all of that. So there is existing infrastructure in place that would support the development of an airport in Camden County. And then lastly, when we take a look at the justification analysis, we have to look at the demand within the community, which is kind of pent up demand. In other words, they're not already necessarily aircraft that might be currently serving these facilities, but things in the county that would potentially utilize the airport if it were to be constructed. So we look at things like you've got 852 existing businesses in the community. A lot of the things like Kings Bay Base, of course, obviously would utilize a facility if it were here, and a lot of the other developments which are on there, which you all are familiar with, because this is, of course, your community. So these are the types of things that provide further justification for a federal investment in an airport in the county. So that leads us to next steps. And really the next steps are pretty straightforward. The FAA has asked for a little bit more of a needs assessment. So they did review the justification study and gave us comments back on that just a couple of weeks ago. I think about 3 weeks ago, we got those comments back. So we already have in our budget, in our contract that we're working under with you now, we already have the budget to address those. So we're moving forward with that now, addressing those additional comments for the FAA. Anticipate having that done probably within the next 3 to 4 weeks, and then we'll have a final draft that we'll resubmit to FAA. So that will basically finish up the justification and finalize that in terms of what the FAA is requiring. Next is FAA has requested a significant show of public support, and when FAA terms public support, they're not necessarily talking about the general public. They're talking about this board, the sponsor for the airport. I think they are looking for something from you, maybe in terms of a letter or something like that, just simply saying that you still are interested in pursuing this replacement airport. It's still in your plans and you're moving forward. And then the last thing is a verification of the Navy's support. That will be site specific, so that won't come until a site has actually been selected. But it was in the agreement when the St. Mary's Airport was closed that DOD would have purview and approval over the location for a replacement airport. So FAA is aware of that. They're just bringing it back to everyone's attention that that's something that needs to be done when the site is finally selected. So really that's pretty much the justification study in a nutshell. Again, it's pretty straightforward. The only other thing that I wanted to mention to you today is I do feel like in the conversations that we've been having for the last year and a half, 2 years now with FAA and Georgia DOT, I do feel like there's a bit of a sense of urgency. And the reason I say that is because we had quite a bit of conversation back and forth with FAA between the time we did the financial study and the justification analysis about whether this really was a replacement airport or whether this was a new airport. And there was some folks within FAA who simply wanted to say that it had been too long, that the old airport was shut down in 2017, 2018, whenever it was shut down, and that because there had not been substantial progress made in that time, that this really didn't qualify as a replacement, and they were kind of pushing toward it being classified as a new airport. what that means in a nutshell is there would be a whole lot more hurdles to jump through and a whole lot more justification that would have to be undertaken if it was deemed not to be a replacement airport. So the fact that it has been a fairly significant amount of time since St. Mary's Airport was closed just simply doesn't work in your favor. And it is becoming more of an issue with FAA. So I would urge you, I guess, if this is still something that you feel like is important to your community, and it is a project that you want to move forward, I do think you have a certain window of opportunity here, and it's not unlimited. If it goes too awfully much longer, if we're having this conversation next year or the year after, then I think you may find yourself in a situation where it's no longer a real opportunity for you. So that's my personal opinion. That's not in the report. That's my 28 years of working with FAA and providing that to you because I feel like it's important for you to know that. So I'll be glad to address any questions you might have on the justification study or on the financial study or anything else that we've done or will be doing in the future.
Anybody got any questions for him? No, I'm good.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank
Wait,
you.
no, I've got some.
Okay.
I was just waiting on you guys.
Fire away.
I was not here for the economic impact.
Yes, sir.
I do know that I worked out of the I call it the Gilman Airport years ago. We had a plane, and like if we had trouble at the paper mill, then we would hop on a plane, fly where we needed to, get our part and bring it back.
Yes, sir.
And I know that basically, over the years, we've lost approximately 4,000 jobs in several industries in our community. And I'd like to see some of them come back and some of these jobs come back.
Mm-hmm.
To do that, I feel like we would need an airport for several reasons. Number one, what I just said, as far as if you were in a jam, like for instance, we would lose $1 million an hour, basically if the paper machine was down. So we would do whatever it took to go get these parts. Number two, is there a possibility that this is actually going to create jobs in this county? What do you think about that?
Yeah, so a couple of things I would say to that. The first one is we work with a lot of economic development directors, both on the local level and on the state level. And there's a saying that I have heard from many of them over the years, and that's that a Fortune 500 company coming into your community to look to invest tens of millions or hundreds of millions of dollars in economic development in your community, they're probably not coming on Greyhound. They're probably coming on a corporate jet or a private jet, and that's kind of how that happens. So if you don't have an airport in your community, it can be an economic development hurdle. Secondly, there's a big economic boost to your community just simply from the construction. We're talking, somewhere in the neighborhood of $50 million of construction for the airport. All that money is going to be spent locally with graders, pavers, drainage, whatever it is. There is a big economic impact just simply from the construction. But of course, after it's built, folks are going to park airplanes there. They're going to pay that ad valorem tax locally. And businesses that need and want an aircraft are going to look for the most convenient place to put it. If you're a company like you mentioned, the paper mill, it's a really good example. If you're a company that sees that you have a need for that aircraft, then you're going to want it to be as close to your business as possible. That's the whole point, is that it gets you from point A to point B as quickly as possible, and get you what you need, whether it's parts or whatever it may be. So yeah, there's clearly a huge economic development component to airports. As a matter of fact, the Georgia Department of Transportation puts together an economic impact study. They do that, I forget exactly how often. It seems like maybe every 3 or 4 years they put together that economic impact study. I'm 99% sure it's online on their website. And you can go in, you can download that study, and you can look at the economic impact of every single airport in the state of Georgia what it brings to the local community in terms of jobs and economic investment. So, yeah.
I used to take my kids to the airport on Saturday mornings because you had all the skydivers and all the planes going off, and they loved watching it. I do know that one of the reasons that airport shut down is because they kept drifting over on the base. And there was a security issue.
Correct.
I remember all of that. When you look at the economic impact and you look at the recreational side of it as well, do you think there is a sense of urgency that we need to go ahead and do something with this quickly? You just said a while ago, next year or the next year, and it's done, right?
Well, that's not written in stone. That's my opinion. That's my personal opinion. It's FAA is moving further and further away from building new airports. There are 5,000 airports in the United States, and I believe that they have a sense that it's a big cost to keep up those 5,000 airports. So it's getting more difficult to get approval to build new ones. And I do think what you have going for you, the biggest thing you have going for you is that this is a replacement airport. And as I said earlier, there are already folks within FAA who are saying, well, is it really a replacement airport? It's been 6-7 years ago. I don't know that this really counts as a replacement airport anymore. So I do think it's critically important that if this is important to the community that you move quickly. There are dollars that are set aside with Georgia DOT for the development of this airport. But again, those dollars, it's already a little bit past the time that they had agreed to hold it. So if they decided that they needed it somewhere else, you would kind of be out of luck. So I think it's super important that you continue to move forward. Not to mention the fact that, I mean, construction costs just continue to go up every single day and every year. So it's not going to be cheaper to build in 5 or 10 years than it is now. And you'll be getting a quicker return on your investment. So I think that's important as well.
Okay.
My analysis is this. While it may be arguable from a standpoint of which comes first, the chicken or the egg, what is not disputed is that if you have a viable, thriving industrial complex business community, you will have an airport. It's just as Mr. Swafford said, they don't ride into town on a Greyhound. So that gives me an inclination to support this, particularly when it's combined with the state funds and federal funds which may be available. And Mr. Boatright, I don't know if we're comfortable talking percentages. I'll let you say that if it needs to be said, but it's substantial. It mitigates our cost to the point that it's very attractive to me to say, if we don't do this, it's a lost opportunity. And I'm not a hobbyist flyer. I am not someone who's going to live or die by an airport, but I am someone who wants to see this community take full advantage of what may be a viable economic opportunity for us. And we may let it slip through our fingers. So I am inclined to support it unless the numbers don't work the way I've been led to believe that they will work. So on balance, I think we need to consider this and we need to expedite it. That's my opinion. And I'm very conservative with spending money. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Anybody else?
No, it's just two things that for a community to thrive is an airport and infrastructure. And we're working on both of them at this point. And that's where, in order for this county to move ahead, you got to have those two items in place. That's a known fact.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we work on airports all over the United States, but I'm doing a project at an airport in Central Florida right now, and Amazon's invested $100 million in there in a facility on the airport. And there's no reason a facility like that couldn't be located in Camden County.
I would point out also that there is a precedent. Back in the 60s, Thiokol thought that it was so important that they do have an airstrip on the Thiokol property. So mentioning that hot button topic, but mentioning it in a positive way. Even back in the 60s, they realized Even though we had St. Mary's Airport, I don't know if it was because their aircraft specifications needed a longer runway, or they had it for some other purpose, or they were bringing in something, or anticipating bringing in something with a heavy lift aircraft that needed more than a 5,000-foot runway. But Thiokol has an airstrip.
Any other comments?
And Commissioners, if I may, just real quick to Commissioner Turner's first question about the economic impact. GDOT provided us back in 2019. These are outdated numbers now, but I think both direct and indirect back then was 116 million during the construction, just the construction of the general aviation airport. That was provided by GDOT back in 2019. So I don't know what that figure would be today. And to the percentages as far as, federal, state, local shares, I think in the financial plan, it was, 90% federal, 5 state, 5 local, but, whether or not those percentages will remain the same, mostly contributing from the federal side. So those discussions are still ongoing and just figuring out exactly what that'll look like. But, just from an initial standpoint, if the federal government was to contribute the full 90%, we were to do 5%, we're probably in that $5 to $6 million range. And again, that's over the course of probably 7, maybe 8 years, just depending upon how long the planning and the construction would last. So I hope that answers y'all's question.
Certainly worth pursuing.
Yes, sir.
Anything else?
No, I'm good. Thank you.
Thank you, Blake.
Thank you, Mr. Walker.
All right, this brings us back to the report on community theater. It's Barbara Ryan.
I looked for the hat, Barbara. Didn't see the hat.
Or just for y'all. Hey, thank you so much for letting us be here. Do I need to give our name and address, Katie?
Yes, please.
Barbara Ryan Harris, actually. 104 Bryant's, no, 10, where do I live? You go.
And I'm Jan Schiff, SHIFF, live at 116 Flamingo Drive in St. Mary's. Thank you.
104 Bartlett Street, downtown St. Mary's. So, again, we're so happy to be here and talk about, and Commissioner Brandt, thank you so much. I agree with you. Any vibrant community, successful community is going to have an airport and of course, infrastructure. And the third key to that is a performing arts center. So we'd love to come here tonight and ask you to build us a performing arts center, but we're not going to do that. Okay. We're going to pull it back just a little bit. What we want to do is apprise our county leaders and you, the citizens, the importance of arts in our community and to ask for your support. Specifically tonight, we'll be addressing performing arts. So Jan is Director of Operations for Saltwater Performing Arts, and I'm the founder and chair of St. Mary's Little Theater. With us tonight is Doug Vaught. Doug is the proprietor of Theater by the Tracks, where St. Mary's Little Theater is so fortunate to call home. So recently, Jan came back from a trip she'd made to her home area in the Midwest, and she had a story, and she told me this story, and this story is what inspired me to seek an audience with our commission. So, and I'll just let her tell you real quick.
Thank you. Thank you for having us here tonight. So from the upper Midwest area and happened to travel back there and had an opportunity to have an invite to go visit a town that was probably 20-25 minutes away from where we were staying, which meant we drove through 20-25 minutes of cornfields and soybean fields because that's all that's there. And when we crossed the railroad track, we came into this community, and it was an older community similar to St. Mary's, similar to Woodbine, similar to Kingsland. And we went to this art gallery. And I was expecting to go to an art gallery where it would be something that had local craftsmen had done their stuff and was displaying it in the art gallery. But when we walked in, it was an older building that had been completely restored to its original condition. It had been a tobacco factory. And in it were pieces of work from all over the country valued at between from $500 to $10,000. And it was incredible work. And I was like, looking around like, well, who buys this stuff? You know, because here we're in the middle of a cornfield. So we toured that place, and then my younger sister said, well, let's go across the street. Well, there was an old Ford dealership from the 30s that had been restored. And in the back of it was artisan workshops for woodworkers, and they could rent the space and then display their craft in the front of the store for sale. Again, this was not, you know, your grandma's knick-knack type of things. This was high-end furniture and items for offices, and just beautiful, beautiful, what I would consider pieces of art as well. And I'm like, who buys this stuff? Because this is such a small community. And then I picked up something that really caught my eye, and it was this brochure, and it said Stoughton Opera House. And I'm like, Stoughton Opera House? This is a town of 13,000 people. Okay, sitting in the middle of a cornfield, 20 miles from from Madison, and that's the closest town that has any cultural opportunities in it for the area. And looking further into it, I was like, well, this is interesting. So I pull up. They have this little sheet, and it's like, this is all the things that go on every weekend for a year, and it's national tour stuff, it's local people, it's stuff like that. Then I pull up their little visitor map, and I'm like, oh my goodness, this looks just like St. Mary's, and you probably can't see it from here, but it's one street that starts at one end and ends at the railroad track. And on that street are 156 different entities where people can go and either eat or be entertained or do their shopping or whatever local business they need done. And it's all right there. Well, this town thrives because their community supports the arts. And they have embraced the arts as something that will take them to the next level. And it has, because it attracts people from all over the country on a yearly basis every weekend. And that puts heads in beds and seats and chairs at restaurants. And the community is absolutely stunning. And like I said, this is a town of 13,000 people. St. Mary's is what, 18,000 people, something like that. And so I kept thinking, why don't we have something like this in our community? Why isn't there that top level support that says the cultural aspect, the quality of life is something that will attract businesses? And so I came back and I got in touch with Barbara, and I was like, we need to join forces with our separate entities and start to come together as a community and embrace all the arts within Camden County into one entity. So Barbara, if you want to come up and continue on with what you were going to cover.
And when we say community, we mean all of Camden County, even though that we actually are headquartered in St. Mary's. Kingsland and Woodbine are very, very important in terms of embracing the performing arts. So some things I want to tell you just real quick. The key to vibrant communities, there's some research about, and they found out that performing arts was an important key to vibrant communities. We know we all want to be a vibrant community. We'll get that airport and infrastructure and Performing Arts Center someday. So the arts play a vital role in shaping and enriching communities worldwide. From visual arts, performing arts, they contribute to the cultural, social, and economic development of a community. Economic development is very key here. So for cultural enrichment, arts provide a platform for cultural expression, preserving and promoting a community's unique heritage, and we do have a very unique heritage here. They celebrate diversity, fostering understanding and appreciation of different cultures, traditions, perspectives, and of course, our history. Through performing arts, communities can showcase their identity, history, and values, creating a sense of pride and belonging. So theater brings people together, fostering social connections, building stronger communities, and providing opportunities for individuals of all ages and backgrounds to engage in shared experiences, promoting dialogue, empathy, and understanding. Performing arts encourage teamwork, communication, and mutual respect, breaking down barriers and bridging divides. Economic impact. There won't be a company that will ever relocate to Camden County without first doing their homework and finding out what we all have to offer to their employees. And performing arts is very important to that. They won't entertain it. They want their children to be involved in cultural arts. They want their children to be educated in the arts. The arts contribute significantly to the economic growth of a community. Live theater attracts tourists, as Jan said, generating revenue for all of our local businesses that on a retail level, hotels, restaurants, shops. And additionally, the arts sector itself creates employment opportunities supporting artists, performers, technicians, and other related professions. A vibrant arts scene can also enhance property values and, as I said, attract new businesses to Camden County.
From our aspect, Saltwater Performing Arts is a educational theater company, and so we start with the kids ages kindergarten, and we have 4 theater troupes, one K through 2, one 3 through 5, and then our middle and high school, and then our family program, our upper level encore program. So we're engaging right from the start. And when you consider that in the schools, we have very limited arts opportunities of any kind in the 9 elementary schools we have. And for those kids going on into fields of their choosing, the performing arts or general arts and arts in general is somewhat limited, because by the time they get to high school, if they're trying to compete with other high schools within Georgia, they're at a severe disadvantage because they haven't had that early training. They get to high school, they've got to start from square one. So we provide that training for them, and many of our graduates from our programs have gone on to achieve full ride performing arts scholarships at major universities, including the Manhattan School of Music in New York City, Belmont University in Nashville, and Georgia Southern, and UGA. And they are coming back now and starting to work with our programs. So we're getting that full circle educational development that says we're bringing these kids back to Camden County. And I know that that's a tough thing to get kids to come back to a community that doesn't have a whole lot of work for them in their field. So, and for that matter, one of our young women graduated from our program, went on to school and studied design, and she is now provided the original designs for our new building that we're renovating in St. Mary's. And so she's not in the performing arts, but she's working in the performing arts. And it was her goal to be able to come back and support the community theater that had given her love for the arts. And so that, you know, is a singular story, but I've got a million of them that are just like that. And what we provide is not just the soft skill training of being on stage. We put our kids through, and adults, everybody, through the backstage programs that provide the technical training of designing, building, construction, all of that, lighting, sound, all those things that go with that, along with the soft skills of learning how to deal with people from all walks of life and how to develop confidence and self-esteem. So the cultural and performing arts are key to developing well-rounded citizens. And this strengthens the entire community and makes it a healthier community. And it does make, I mean, I can't tell you how many times I get a phone call from a relocating military personnel that the first thing they say is, I'm so disappointed that the community that we're moving to does not have a strong arts program in the community and is not supported by the community. And it shows because it's not in the schools, in the early schools, and there's very limited stuff in the middle schools. And so they come to us looking for that education. That and homeschool students, they don't have any opportunity at all for any of the arts. So, you know, that's another area that we provide that. But what we're trying to do is attract businesses in. Now, when we put on our 9 shows this year, we're going to bring in over 3,500 audience members, and I know for a fact with our show Little Mermaid that goes on stage next Friday night is that we got people flying in from Germany, we've got people flying in from California to see their family members, and these people are coming, and we need to showcase how strong we feel about the cultural side of this community. And I think without that, it's great to have an airport, great to have, you know, try to attract, you know, Ryanair up to build subdivisions and stuff like that. But people want something to do, and we want something for the kids and the families to do together where they can feel like they're contributing to the well-being of the total community as well as their family. So.
Okay, so she covered education, skill development, but health and well-being is very important for engagement in the arts has been proven to have positive effects on mental health and well-being. There are therapy programs that help individuals cope with stress, trauma, and emotional challenges. So it really, this is solid scientific research that shows that children who are involved in the arts perform better in school. And as she mentioned, self-confidence is so key. Just a couple of examples of when I founded St. Mary's Little Theater many, many years ago, 14, I think. There was this young boy, he was 15 years old, and he was so shy and so withdrawn, he wouldn't even look at you. Man of La Mancha was our first performance. And that little boy, few years later, got a scholarship to Juilliard. And another example, Cameron Johnson, who was one of our residents, and he was also in that first show, Man of La Mancha. He just finished a season with a key starring role in the Batwoman series. So we know that people go on to be successful, and Jan's organization grooms these kids, and as she says, she also has adults involved, but it's just so key. St. Mary's Little Theater, our mission statement is enriching lives through performing arts. Inclusivity is very important to our mission, and every show that we have generally includes the talents of several special needs citizens. We focus on diversity, opportunity for all, and we've been entertaining residents and visitors for, like I say, about 14 years, more than 60 unique productions, 264 shows. We are like Jan's organization, we are a 501c3 nonprofit, and we are totally run by volunteers. We did, thanks to Doug, save a historic building in downtown St. Mary's that was scheduled for demolition. And that's the old railroad building where they used to work on locomotives. And quite a few of you in here did work at the paper mill, so you know what that building was all about. So we're very, very proud of that. We are seeking your support financially. St. Mary's Little Theater has a need to upgrade our sound system, and we want to continue to deliver top-notch performances that bring local and visiting audiences to our area, contributing to a vibrant, economically sound community, enhancing the lifestyle of our residents. And Jan's going to tell you a little bit more about her organization. I think you have some more. Keep it real. Okay, yeah, and then I'll wrap it up.
Just briefly, we've been in business 10 years, 501c, and we have always been housed in other people's buildings, and so we are now moving into a building within St. Mary's on Osborne, and we will hopefully move in there in the next month and continue our endeavors in the town while growing. So we do, I already covered, who we deal with as far as our participants and the size of our programs. We continue, we see a great future for the performing arts here and partnering with the other organizations. And we definitely would, whatever support you can provide, we would love financial support. I don't know if that's within your purview or not, but we definitely, in our renovation project as a 501c, you don't make a whole lot of money, and you try to reinvest everything in the business to keep it going. So, we would I'd definitely like to see something come together as a joint venture to create some kind of strengthening of the arts culture within the community, and then providing financial support if possible.
Long-term, Jan and I hope to create an arts consortium of sort, and we certainly hope that your Schoolhouse Opry will be part of that. We love that Opry, and we come as often as we can here in Woodbine. Just wrapping this up, though. Hold on. We came here tonight to not only apprise county leadership and our citizens about the importance of arts in the community, but we also are asking for some financial support. We are asking you to consider, because we are the anchoring performing arts organizations in Camden County, we're asking you to consider a $5,000 contribution to each of our nonprofit organizations so that we can better serve the community and our visitors. Saltwater Performing Arts has taken over a vacant space. That's part of economic development at the gateway to downtown St. Mary's. They need funds to maximize the efficiency of their space for education and entertainment. St. Mary's Little Theater would like funding to upgrade our sound system so that every resident visitor has the best experience possible when attending a performance. And we thank you so much for your kind consideration. We look forward to your response. Thank you.
Thank you for your presentation. All right. But I don't think we'll be able to help you because the Georgia Constitution has a gratuities clause in there that will prevent us from doing that. But
Well, we just thought maybe there were special situations like the scoreboard. No, the gratuity clause, we have to have something in it. But unless the county has their name on the title of the scoreboard, I think that was an exception. So we would just ask you to look and see if there are.
we'll consider it. Thank you. All right, this brings us to our first public comment section of the night. We'll be limited to agenda items only and limited to 3 minutes. Anybody registered, Katie?
Yes, Mr. Steve Winkle. Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, I'm just going to say something real quick. I was going to come and meet before you guys as your film commissioner. I just want to give you a quick update. We have filming going on in the theater downstairs right now. We got 2 major projects coming next month. Thank you for your time.
I want to point out that I am not against a local airport, but I also wish to point out that there are 454 airports in Georgia. There are 80 more airports than there are libraries in the state of Georgia. I also note that just like with the spaceport, we're getting advice from consultants that have a vested interest in our pursuing going forward. And therefore, I would hope that y'all would seek additional information about the economic benefits, which the 454 airports in Georgia have special cases, the ones that are showing that they can earn their keep. Most of them are idle. Many of them are private. The ones that the board visited are interesting because Camden County claimed that at St. Mary's Airport, we had more operations than any of the 3 that y'all visited currently have, according to the statistics that were up there tonight. And according to my information, which I gained today from the state of Georgia and from the FAA. And so if y'all are interested in knowing the facts, the cold hard facts, then I'll be glad to take questions or be glad to meet with you in order to provide you with the information that you need to have so that the taxpayers don't get stuck with an elephant on our back. We have plenty of airports in the vicinity. You haven't even told us where you're planning to put the airport. And so there may very well be airports that are closer to the people who are in the county who might use the airport than the Camden County Airport. And since the Fernandina Airport, as we were explaining tonight, has a backlog of 100 hangar spaces, why are you only planning 10 hangar spaces? If you don't think that those 100 are going to come here and those 100 haven't already found another home. And then the 17 planes that are registered in Camden County, where are they landing now? And what makes us think that the Camden County Airport will be competitive other than a shorter drive? And frankly, as a taxpayer in Camden County, I refuse to pay for an airport so that a plane owner has a shorter drive for their recreation. And so those of you need to understand that there's plenty of questions that remain unanswered. The first one I'd like to know is, where do you intend to put it?
Thank you for your comments.
You going to answer that tonight?
Nope. Anybody else registered, Katie? Anybody else wish to speak? All right, we'll move on. All right, at this time, we need to adjourn the regular meeting and convene the first of two public hearings. Can I get a motion on that?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Have a second?
Second.
All in favor? All right, we're at the first public hearing.
Good evening, Commissioners. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for your time tonight. We have two meetings on the agenda tonight. The first is going to be a waste needs meeting to establish the need to permit new airspace for the MSW landfill in Camden County. And the second will be a siting decision meeting to decide where that airspace will be permitted. With that, if it pleases the commission, we'd like to open the first meeting.
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
I'll go ahead and turn it over to Robert Brown, the engineer of record for Camden County MSW landfill.
Thank you, Robert Brown with Atlantic Coast Consulting. I've got a few things I'm going to read here about the needs meeting. So this meeting is being held in compliance with the Georgia Solid Waste Comprehensive Solid Waste Management Act, Section 12-8-26A of the Georgia Code. As such, it was advertised for at least the past 2 weeks in the local paper. So as Campbell stated, the purpose of the meeting is to discuss the needs of the county and describe the process of siting a solid waste disposal facility. Meetings intended to be informal. However, we accept questions and comments at the end of our remarks. No formal decisions are made as part of this part of the meeting. So the Camden County handles solid waste collections and disposal operations. They currently contract with a private hauler for weekly curbside household and recyclable service and bulk item service on call in unincorporated county. Commercial industrial establishments within the county are responsible for contracting with various private haulers in their community for collections. Cities within the county either contract with a private hauler for their collections or provide the services themselves. These collection methods are felt to be adequate for the current and future demands. Camden County operates a municipal solid waste landfill and a construction demolition / industrial landfill out on Highway 110, about 10 or 11 miles west of here. The landfills are located on approximately 1,380 acres of land that's owned by the county, with approximately 350 acres that is currently permitted for solid waste operations. Each year, the county surveys the landfill to determine the amount of landfill capacity remaining. Based on the 2023 remaining capacity reports, which were completed this summer, the municipal solid waste side has a capacity that is estimated to be reached by 2034, so a little bit more than 10 years from now. And the construction and demolition landfill is estimated to be reaching capacity in 2374. So there's a need to site, permit, and construct additional municipal solid waste landfill areas in order to maintain 10 years of disposal capacity, which is part of the goal of the county solid waste management plan. So the process for siting a new waste disposal area, the process to be used by the county is outlined in the Solid Waste Management Act, as well as the county's plan that was adopted in 2017. The Solid Waste Management Plan details the land limitations and the facility consistency requirements that are required as part of a new site. During the permit process with EPD, there will be multiple future opportunities for public to provide input as part of that process. So that's the comments I have on the needs meeting. So any questions?
I don't have any. Anybody from the public wish to speak on this item? We could look into it. You got.
That's already been looked into and it is cost prohibitive to do it. It was done in Savannah for many years by a company called Katie Sears to handle the Chatham County's waste and everything. They're bankrupt, they're gone. There's not an active incinerator in the state of Georgia, to my knowledge, today that's functioned because they're all gone. It does not work.
Howard County's got one, it's working.
Yes, sir. I'm sure they do. And they got the billions of dollars to manage it with, which we don't have.
They're a long.
Any other questions for her? All right. This time we need to close this public hearing and open another one.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to adjourn the public hearing now. Make a motion to adjourn the public hearing and convene the second public hearing.
Second.
Got a first and second, all in favor? All right, we're in our second public hearing.
All right, thank you. So this meeting is being held in compliance with the Georgia Solid Waste Management Act, Section 12-8-26B, which is the second paragraph of what I just quoted earlier. As such, this meeting was advertised in the last 2 weeks, or at least the last 2 weeks, for the local paper. The purpose of the meeting is to discuss the proposed landfill location to allow for opportunity for public comments. We'll accept questions and comments. At the end of these remarks, the county's made a decision to expand the existing landfill areas out at the current facilities. So as stated a while ago, the county operates both the municipal solid waste landfill and a construction and demolition landfill out on Highway 110. Currently, those 350 permitted acres are split between the municipal solid waste areas and the construction and demolition areas. And as you heard in the remaining capacity estimates that I gave a while ago, there wasn't much remaining capacity of the municipal solid waste disposal areas, and there was an abundance of areas available for construction and demolition facilities. So in 2020, the county started the process of evaluating options for future MSW disposal areas, municipal solid waste. The two options determined to be the best fit for the county were either expanding off the footprint of the existing MSW area or re-permitting and reconfiguring lands adjacent to the construction and demolition permitted areas. And what we have decided at this point to go forward with is re-permitting the areas adjacent to the current construction and demolition areas. So hopefully you can see some of that. So Highway 110 here, the MSW facility, the C&D old facility, and the current C&D cells. If you've been out there, I think the sheriff training facility, shooting range is out there. So what we're proposing to do is the backside of the construction demolition area, re-permit that for municipal solid waste, get a vertical expansion permitted over the existing footprint of the current lined areas, and expand the footprint of the construction demolition areas so that you regain some of the space that is lost by converting that to the municipal solid waste area. So that being said, the abundance of construction, demolition, industrial area, I think would be better suited to be re-permitted and reevaluated to try to use as MSW area because of the lack of current space for that.
Anybody got any questions?
Just a comment, that was my original intention many years ago. And it kind of got bypassed and wanted to move it over on some adjacent property, but by utilizing this here, you can utilize your existing leachate collection system and everything, your tanks, your storage area, utilize your same facilities, scales and everything. So it's a economic boom to do this right here.
Yeah, you got one entrance off the highway, then everybody's coming in, you got one set of scales, one set of scale operators, and one set of facilities to operate both the C&D landfill and the MSW landfill. So that's correct.
Anybody from the public wish to speak on this item?
Chairman, can we have them just come up to the mic, please, if you can?
Yeah, because I need your name and just where you live. You can just say the city. You don't have to give me your address.
My name's David Mann. I live in White Oak. So you guys said that the entrance to the C&D waste currently would be the entrance to both sites at that time.
That's correct. We would permit new MSW airspace behind where the C&D is now, and there would be an inbound and an outbound scale at the C&D entrance.
So how would you address the traffic that already builds up at the C&D line?
We'd have to look more into that when we got closer.
Yeah, because that already comes out to 110 and it's kind of confusing as it is. And then if you add all the residential trucks to that same scale, you're going to cause a big problem out there.
The original design was to do an in scale and an out scale. Widen the range there where it's at, give you more area, and do an accel decel lane off the 110 would give you plenty of room for all the capacity that was coming in.
Okay, I just wanted to bring that up.
That's a fair point. I think when there was a former director out there who's now a commissioner, we looked at moving the scales much further off the highway in order to help facilitate that. So we've got a study that we looked at that, and that would probably be something you need to look at as you get the queue from additional traffic coming in there for
Okay.
sure.
That's all I had.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dave.
And keep in mind, this could be 10 years from now before that even happens. So.
Anybody else? All right, now we need a motion to adjourn the second public hearing and reconvene the regular meeting.
Mr. Chairman, make a motion to adjourn the public hearing and reconvene the regular meeting.
Second.
All in favor? Motion carries. All right, this time we need to adjourn the regular meeting and convene a solid waste authority meeting.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
All in favor? All right, now we're in the solid waste authority meeting. Is there any amendments to the agenda? Seeing none, can we get a motion to accept the agenda as presented?
Motion to accept the solid waste, adoption of the solid waste agenda as presented, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
Got a first and second, all in favor? Accepted the agenda. All right, this brings us to the approval of the minutes. If there's no changes to the minutes from the July 18th Solid Waste Authority meeting, can I get a motion to accept those minutes?
Make a motion to accept those minutes.
Second.
First and second to accept the minutes, all in favor? Motion carries. All right, this brings us to the first public comment section for Solid Waste Authority. Limited to 3 minutes and Solid Waste Authority agenda items only. Anybody registered? Anybody from the public wish to speak? Brings us to item number 1, Kim.
Is that the funding?
This is the funding.
Yes, sir. This will be funded out of the Solid Waste Enterprise Fund for the task order to start the site acceptability process.
That's for $160,000.
Yes, sir.
Can I get a motion on this item?
Motion to approve, Mr. Chairman.
Get a second for discussion?
I'll second it.
Any discussion?
No.
All in favor? Motion carries. Item number 2. Consideration of the tipping fee increase for wet sludge.
Yes, sir. Thank you. A couple of years ago, the EPD started regulating the high moisture content waste for MSW landfills. Our purpose with this is we're getting too much out of county wet sludge, which is really too much for our high moisture content waste. So we want to raise the price of the tipping fees in order to get less.
Give me an example of what you're charging now and what you're going to, please.
Yes, sir. Right now, the price is $43.47 for out of county. And we want to increase it to $65.
Per ton?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Campbell, do you know what the overall annual impact of that would be based off of what we're currently receiving?
Well, the regulations call for less than 10%, or you have to do,
And that 10% fluctuates with what you receive over the course of the year, correct?
yes, sir, that's the annual tonnage.
Right.
So we'd like to bring it down more around 5% or less.
What is the percentage that we're receiving from the 3 cities right now in the Navy?
Okay, I got that right here. Let me see. Right now, in county, is roughly 48% and out of county is 52%.
So it's about, we're trying to keep it around 50% is what you're talking about overall.
5% high moisture waste content. total.
I'm talking about, 5% of the 10% that we're legally allowed. is what
Yes,
you're
sir.
saying. Yeah. No.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Can I get a motion on this item?
Motion to approve, Mr. Chairman. Second.
First and second to increase the tipping fees for out of county wet sludge.
Mhm.
All in favor?
And if I may, I think, we've had several requests from out of counties, like even the city of Atlanta,
Yeah.
wanting to bring their sludge all the way down here. It's, quite impressive how many places are not accepting it, so.
Do we think this price increase is going to adequately address that, or we're going to have to look at this again? And
It'll definitely help. We'll have to reevaluate it and see what happens.
I think it's one of those things where they have to put it somewhere and may be willing to pay the price, so
Yes, sir.
it may be a catch-22. How quickly could we turn around and further discourage? Is there a limit on that?
I think we give it a couple months and then reevaluate and
But there's no legislatively imposed time frame that says you can't raise it but once a year, or?
no, sir, not that I'm aware
So
of.
so we can continue to apply a rate increase to the point that we get it where we want it?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
All right, this brings us to our last public comments on solid waste. Anybody wish to speak to the board on? Seeing none, we need a motion to adjourn the solid waste meeting and reconvene the regular meeting.
Make a motion to adjourn the solid waste committee meeting and resume the regular meeting. Second.
The first and second. All in favor? Okay, we are now back in our regular meeting. All right. Item number 1. Campbell,
You're still up, Cameron. Sorry.
we got to do it twice. This is for the funding of the MSW landfill expansion.
Yes, sir. That would come out of the solid waste enterprise fund.
That was $160,000.
That's correct.
All right, can I get a motion on this item?
Motion to approve, Mr. Chairman. Second.
First and second. This is a consideration of funding for the MSW landfill expansion permit. All in favor? Motion carries. Item number 2, tipping fee increase.
Yes, sir. This would be to increase the price of wet sludge from out of county to $65 with the intent of getting less out of county, or with the intent of getting less high moisture content waste.
Get a motion on this item?
Motion to approve.
Second.
First and second to increase the tipping fees. All in favor? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Just for clarification, from the board, do you want this to be effective as of today, or do you want to put a time requirement for notice?
Is there a legislative time requirement?
There's not.
As far as I'm concerned, we need to go ahead and institute it if we're trying to address a problem.
You got to give a notice.
How much of
Public
it?
of what you're doing, the haulers and everything. You don't want them coming to gate tomorrow and tell them it's $65 when they were paying 40 before. So I would say give them at least to the first of the month notification
Okay,
of where we're at.
will do. Thank you.
That's fair enough.
Good point.
Hang on to it. Thank you, commissioners. Thank you, Seth.
Who was the commissioner he talked about, knew what he was doing?
I have no idea. I just remember siting it and building it many years ago. And just for a footnote, that site was designed to last 20 years. First load come in September 28th of 1992. Where we at today? Well, we got 10 years left. That's on the MSW only.
All right, item number 3, Kelsey.
Good evening, Commissioners. This agenda item is for your consideration to approve the purchase of 3 Chevrolet Silverado 1500 trucks. 1 for facilities, 1 for planning and development, and 1 for fire rescue from Stingray Chevrolet. Purchasing received Florida Sheriff's Association pricing from Stingray Chevrolet. A second quote was received from Nally GMC for $46,945. Bennett Chevrolet quoted us 3 trucks that were $46,714.83, but they were the 2.7 liter turbo engines. Fleet has advised not getting the 2.7 liter turbo trucks due to the fact the trucks having issues. The 5.3 liter engine trucks is easier to get parts, and overall the reliability is better. Staff recommends approval to purchase the 3 Chevrolet Silverado 1500 trucks from Stingray Chevrolet.
Can I get a motion on this item?
Motion to approve, Mr. Chairman.
Can I ask a question?
Let's
Wait.
second it and open it up.
I second.
All right. We got a first and second to approve the purchase of the 3 trucks. Any discussion?
My understanding is you actually went up to Bennett Chevrolet.
Yes, because they stopped returning my text messages and phone calls. So I personally went up there and had a talk with one of the managers and told him I'm trying to use y'all, but I was getting no response back. And it was not just 1 text, it was about 4 text messages.
Okay. And the motor's too small to begin with, and the price is a little higher, right?
Yes.
And they don't meet the 5% rule. right?
So the Stingray quoted us that same one, the same truck with that engine. And I have it in my notes right here. So the 2.7 liter turbo engine from Stingray was $42,325. So it is, yeah.
I just wanted to clarify that because I still want us to try local. Thank you.
I'm trying.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you for your efforts.
You're welcome.
All right, any more discussion? All in favor? Carried.
Thank you.
This brings us to item number 4. The update regarding the GDOT bridge on replacements on Highway 17.
We had, I missed the last meeting, but as I recall, the meeting prior to that, we were told we would be hearing more information about that. I have very strong feelings about one particular aspect of this above all of the other significant and truly meaningful aspects, and that is that in the process of being trained as a bus driver for the Camden County school system, I've been riding the bus in the north end of the county. I got up at 4:15 in the morning to catch that route. That's not significant, except in terms that that's what the bus driver that comes from the north end has to do to get down to the bus barn to get her bus. But the first kid gets on that bus before 6 in the morning, and that's under the current situation. And I've asked her to tell me what it's going to mean in terms of time. She said the time is not as much of a problem as the route itself. Having to go so far out of the way, and part of it being on narrow dirt roads and sharing that road with everybody else that's going to be rerouted off of 17. It's a major, major issue. And I know we're working on it, but I don't think people have grasped that yet. And I invite you to follow that bus and see what that route is now, and think about how difficult that's going to be for these children. And this is a special needs route that I'm specifically citing. There are other routes that are not special needs, but all children matter. Regular kids, special needs, our bus drivers matter. Part of the reason why I wanted to do this, they're screaming for bus drivers. And I have done it before while I was working on a master's degree. It was the most fun I ever had in my life. And I'll put a word in for you. If you want to do something interesting, you want to be trained and given a $3,000 education, Camden County school system will educate you on how to drive a bus. The big problem you're going to have is not handling the bus, it's handling the kids. Okay? And I had the SWAT commander, I drove with him in Florida 25 years ago, walk in on the second day, Miami-Dade, Florida SWAT commander, 30-year veteran police officer, threw his keys on the desk and said, I'm not woman enough to do this job. But they talked him into staying, and he's a great bus driver. Okay, enough of that. It's important that we do everything we possibly can to avoid these detours from the standpoint of the children, from the standpoint of the citizens, from the standpoint of an increasing accident rate. We have got to grapple with this problem and be serious about it. Thank you for the time to talk.
Yes, sir. And just, further expanding upon that, I requested another update from GDOT yesterday, and the update that they sent to me today was they're still working on a response to the resolution that was approved by the board, as well as the 3 municipalities, the sheriff, the Joint Development Authority, and the chamber. So they're still working on that. They're also communicating with the Federal Highway Administration, just about what plans and alternatives they can continue to look at and revise. I've also been in contact with some of the industry leaders in the area, specifically that of the logging industry. So I know that they're working on, trying to just connect with GDOT and actually kind of lean on the Georgia Forestry Association to have some of their input on this project, as well as even our U.S. senators and Congressman Carter's office. We're going to be having some meetings with them coming up here pretty soon to have further discussions. And I've also been in contact with the Federal Highway Administration for Georgia, specific on this project. So there's a lot of communications that are going on. Still trying to, answer any and all questions that the community has, and still also requesting that GDOT come down and hold another open house regarding these projects. So all of those efforts are still ongoing.
Thank you, Mr. Boatright.
Thank you. One thing that can also help is if the public would write these individuals as well.
Yeah.
All right, this brings us to calendar. Katie,
There's no changes at this time.
county administrator's comments.
I do not have any, Chairman. Thank you.
Brings us to additional public comments. We'll limit you to 3 minutes. Any registered speakers?
Yes, Mr. Steve Winkle. Okay.
No one denies that US 17 bridges have to be replaced someday. Bridges built in the 1950s wear out, have to be replaced. Doesn't seem like the county is asking or has asked the right questions, and DOT hasn't provided all or honest answers. We can't get the story straight. 4 weeks ago, Georgia DOT spokesman said that they're going to replace one bridge at a time, so residents that claim that the work will take 3 years are incorrect. The 3 years have been stated many times in DOT and county documents, and if it's different than that, we need to see the detail in writing. And if they can close one bridge at a time, then the detour route will have to change depending on which bridge is closed. So it doesn't matter whether they close them one at a time or not. We're told the work must be done because the bridges do not meet the legal load limits. That's false. Every one of the bridges meets legal load limits. And here's the proof of it, printed in documents straight from the Georgia DOT website today in their own words for each of the bridges. We're told that local bypass bridges are not possible because impacts to sensitive environmental areas and wildlife would be unacceptable. But they fail to provide the environmental reports that show that information. They have they haven't refused. They have decided to charge me $600 for those reports. And if they're not in the county's possession, then I expect the county to obtain those and to provide those to someone like myself who understands the environmental reports to tell you about whether their story is true or not. But as far as I know, we don't know. Georgia DOT says the bridges are 68 years old as if the age matters. All 6 north of Woodbine are 68 years old. That's every one of them, including the Godley Bridge over the Satilla River, including Tower Swamp, all the same age. All have the same load limit. They're not replacing, in this 3-year disruption, the Godley Bridge. When are they going to have another disruption that completely shuts off the northwest side of the county to do the work on the Godley Bridge? We haven't heard a word about that. That's the Satilla River Bridge, for those of you who don't know it by its formal name. The fact is that we've got the 3 years they're talking about now, plus sometime in the near future, because all the bridges are the same age, the Tower Swamp Bridge and the Godley Bridge. So we're not getting the whole story, and we don't know what the disruption is going to be. We don't know what harm it's going to do in this county to the folks who live here. And so when I take a look at this, I came tonight to hope that we would get more of the truth. But I didn't hear any truth tonight. I didn't hear any of the better story. All I heard is that we're talking about it. I understand from one of my inside people.
Time's up, Steve.
Oh.
Thank you for your comment.
I welcome any questions on this subject because I'm well versed in it. And I would think that the county would do well to talk to someone from the outside.
Anybody else wish to speak?
Good evening. Good evening. My name is Janie Everett with the Thiokol Memorial Project. And I'd like to invite everyone to come to the annual Thiokol Memorial commemorative ceremony on February the 3rd, 2024 at the PSA complex in Kingsland. Recently, I had a very interesting seminar with the Smithsonian called the Low Country Project. And I didn't think about it, not once, but I invited them to come to Camden County. I'm very proud of our history. They have a new exhibit opening in July of 2025, and they want to highlight the history of the Low Country, which is the Carolinas, Georgia, and St. Augustine. And I reminded them that we have St. Mary's, we had a robust fishing industry, Cumberland Island, the plantations, and our people did the syrup and the fish nets. Now, North Carolina has already donated a boat, and I can see that our people, our fishermen, could provide a fish net to drape across that boat. And so I invited them to come to Camden County. I'm just hoping that the historians and the citizens will, you know, if they're interested in it, they will come here and introduce that new exhibit that will open at the Smithsonian. And we should try to get some of our history spotlighted in there. I'm proud of Camden County, and I know that we have a lot to offer, and it should be at the national level. I've contacted the Brian Lang. They have been very cooperative. They have provided the Smithsonian with a list of their collections that would be provided should we agree to participate in the July 2025 exhibit. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. Anybody else wish to speak? Seeing none, can I get a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? We're done. Thank y'all.